All right, let's just jump right in. Our court systems are under this immense pressure to modernize, right? But the second you say AI, especially in a place like family court, everyone gets nervous. It feels like this incredible balancing act. On one hand, you have this promise of making things more efficient, of giving more people access to justice. But on the other hand, there's this deep, gut-level fear of what could go wrong. So this explainer is all about a playbook for navigating that exact problem.
And this is the question, isn't it? This is the one that just stops progress dead in its tracks. We've all heard the horror stories. AI models just making up legal citations out of thin air, chatbots leaking confidential information, algorithms with hidden biases. I mean, when you're dealing with the well-being of a family, with someone's fundamental rights, the fear of making a mistake is totally paralyzing. But here's the twist. What if the technology itself isn't the real problem?
So here's the game plan for the next few minutes. We're going to start with that core dilemma, then lay out a really solid thesis for how to move forward. After that, we'll break down a super practical framework called the risk ladder. We'll talk about the human guardrails you need, how to run smart pilot projects, and finally, how to make a case for this that's basically irresistible.
Let's just be really clear about what's going on here. It's easy to think that courts are risk-averse just because they hate change. But that's not it. They're risk-averse because, up until now, they haven't had a defensible way to manage innovation. Without a clear set of rules, every single new AI tool feels like a massive, unpredictable gamble with the court's reputation and, more importantly, with the public's trust.
And this right here, this is the key. The real challenge isn't trying to wrestle with some complex AI model. It's about creating a simple, repeatable, and transparent system that answers the most basic questions. What are we allowed to do? Who gets to say yes? And how do we make sure it's working right and not going off the rails? That's what a playbook gives you.
Okay, so how do we actually build this playbook? Well, it all starts with one simple but really powerful shift in your mindset. We have to stop treating AI like it's some kind of magical, experimental black box. Instead, we need to frame it as just another tool that has to operate within a very strict, controlled quality system, just like everything else the court uses. The entire power of this playbook is really captured in this one sentence. And this isn't just some fluffy mission statement. It is a defensible thesis. It gives court leaders a rock-solid, standards-based position they can stand on. It draws a very clear line in the sand. Sure, we want to improve things, but never, ever at the expense of our core legal principles. Those are non-negotiable. And look, this idea didn't just come from nowhere. It's anchored in established, trusted national frameworks. It plugs right into the NIST's risk management framework, govern, map, measure, manage, and it aligns perfectly with the National Center for State Courts guidance, which is all about starting small and always, always keeping a human in the loop. All right, a thesis is great, but you need a practical tool to make it real. And that brings us to this idea of a risk ladder. Honestly, this might be the most powerful tool for cutting through all the fear. It stops those endless, going nowhere philosophical debates about what AI could do, and it forces a much more practical conversation about what a specific tool will do and what the risks are.
So picture a ladder with 4 rungs. Tier 1 is for minimal risk stuff, where the default answer is basically, yeah, go for it. Tier 2 is for moderate risk. That's more of a yes, but that requires more oversight. Tier 3 is for high-risk uses, a very rare yes and only after a formal pilot. And Tier 4, that's for unacceptable risks, where the default answer is just a hard nope. And this makes it crystal clear how it works in the real world. A Tier 1 task, like drafting an internal FAQ for staff, that just needs a quick human spot check. Tier 2, maybe summarizing case filings to help staff figure out where they go. Okay, that requires a mandatory human review. A Tier 3 high-risk task, like drafting a template for a court order, whoa, that needs pre-approval and bias testing. And finally, Tier 4, automating a custody decision? Absolutely not. It's just prohibited. See, the level of human control always scales with the level of risk.
So the risk ladder is a fantastic tool, but it can't just stand on its own. It needs human structures, it needs clear rules to actually work. This is all about building the guardrails that make sure AI is used safely and that someone is always accountable.
At the very heart of this is an AI steering committee. And this shouldn't seem radical at all. You're just bringing together the key leaders from operations, the judiciary, IT, legal, and so on. It perfectly mirrors how courts already manage risk for other big things like cybersecurity. You're just using a familiar, proven structure for a new challenge.
Now, when it comes to the actual policies, the playbook has this really smart idea called a policy stack. Instead of trying to write one giant 30-page document that covers everything and is immediately out of date, you create a set of smaller, targeted policies. This stack is so much more agile. It's way easier to update one 2-page rule on data handling than it is to overhaul a monster document.
And the policies in this stack cover all the essentials. You've got an acceptable use policy that says what you can and can't do, a data handling policy that puts a fence around confidential info, a really important human oversight policy that makes it clear a person is always accountable, and, of course, an incident response plan for when things go wrong. Together, they create a really comprehensive set of guardrails.
So you've got the framework, you've got the governance. Where do you actually start? Well, the key is to pilot projects that are both politically safe and operationally valuable. You want to prove the concept and build confidence with some low-risk, high-impact wins right out of the gate.
And here is a perfect menu of those kinds of pilots. For example, using AI to help draft clearer notices for people who file their paperwork incorrectly. That helps the public, and it saves court staff a ton of time. Or how about creating a self-help chatbot that can only pull answers from a database of pre-approved court info? These projects solve real, everyday problems without touching any of that high-risk decision-making.
Okay, let's bring this all together. To get real buy-in, this can't just be about tech. The whole plan has to connect directly back to the court's fundamental mission. We have to show exactly how this structured approach helps the court do its most important job better.
What's so powerful about this playbook is that it takes the biggest anxieties people have and neutralizes them, one by one. You're worried about AI making up fake citations? The solution is a mandatory verification standard. Afraid of confidential data leaking? The solution is strict data rules and a list of approved tools. Concerned about bias? The solution is to prohibit those high-risk uses and demand human oversight. For every fear, there is a specific, concrete control.
And the benefits have to be framed in the language of court leadership. We're not talking about faster processing just for the sake of it. No, we're talking about scaling access to justice. We're talking about reducing burnout and supporting our workforce. We're talking about building public trust through transparent, well-governed innovation. These are the outcomes that really matter.
And this isn't some vague dream, it's an actionable plan. The first 90 days are all about building the foundation. Get the committee going, publish the risk ladder, train the staff. By 6 months, you're expanding your approved tools and being more transparent. And within a year, you could have this whole process institutionalized. It's a classic crawl, walk, run approach, and it works. And that brings us to the core idea of this entire playbook. The goal is to fundamentally change the risk calculation. With a clear, defensible, and transparent system in place, the bigger risk is no longer trying something new. The bigger risk becomes failing to innovate safely and falling behind in the mission to serve the public. So I'll leave you with this final thought. After seeing a structured, standards-based approach like this, what's the real danger here? Is it adopting AI within these guardrails? Or is the bigger danger actually doing nothing and failing to harness these tools in a safe, controlled, and accountable way to improve our system of justice for everyone?